decay. In the ancient days of Israel, when the land still listened to the voice of the prophets, a man was born who would change the course of many lives. His name was Elisha. His story did not begin in a palace or among riches, but in a simple field where hard work shaped every sunrise. Elisha was born into a farming family in a place called Abel Meholah. His father was a hard-working man who owned land and livestock, and their home was stable. From a young age, Elisha learned the value of effort and obedience. He was not rebellious or proud, but calm, observant, and with a heart sensitive to the spiritual. While others dreamed of wealth or power, Elisha grew in silence without knowing that God had a great purpose for his life. The years passed, and he became a strong young man, used to the plow and the heat of the sun. His life seemed destined to remain in the fields, working the land with his family. But everything changed on an unexpected day. That day, Elisha was working as usual, guiding the oxen and plowing the land. Dust rose beneath his feet, and effort filled his body. Suddenly, a man appeared who would change his destiny forever. It was Elias, one of the most powerful prophets in Israel, known for his authority and for the miracles God performed through him. Elias did not say many words. He approached Elisha and placed his cloak over him. That simple act had a deep meaning. It was a sign of calling. It was God inviting Elisha to leave everything and follow a completely different path. Elisha understood in that moment that his life would never be the same. He did not ask complicated questions or demand long explanations. He only asked to say goodbye to his family. Then he made a radical decision. He sacrificed his oxen, burned his tools, and offered everything as a sign that there would be no turning back. That is how his new life began. Elisha left the comfort of his home and followed Elias, becoming his servant and apprentice. For years he walked beside him, watching, learning, and growing. He did not seek fame or recognition. He devoted himself to serving with humility, waiting for the moment God had prepared. Elias was a strong and firm man, but also demanding. Elisha had to learn discipline, patience, and faith. He witnessed astonishing miracles, fire coming down from heaven, rains arriving after long droughts, and the authority with which Elias spoke in the name of God. But Elisha did not only observe, he also grew within. His faith became deeper, his trust stronger, and his spirit more willing. One day Elias knew that his time was coming to an end. The moment to depart was near. Elisha also knew it, but he refused to leave him. He walked with him until the end, without separating even for a moment. Elias told him to stay behind, but Elisha firmly answered that he would not leave him. His loyalty was complete, his heart was determined. Then Elias asked him an important question. He told him to ask for whatever he wanted before he was taken away. Elisha did not ask for riches or human power. He asked for a double portion of the Spirit that was upon his master. It was a great and difficult request. Elias replied that if he saw him being taken, then he would receive what he had asked for. They walked together until something extraordinary happened. A chariot of fire with horses of fire appeared, separating them, and Elias was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw it. At that moment he knew that his request had been granted. He took the cloak that Elias had dropped and returned with a new authority. He struck the waters of the Jordan River, and they parted just as it had happened before with his master. It was the sign. Elisha was no longer just a disciple now. He was the prophet who would continue the work. The young farmer had been transformed into a powerful instrument in the hands of God. From that moment on, his life would be filled with miracles, difficult decisions, and moments that would mark the history of Israel forever. But his journey was only just beginning. After receiving the cloak of Elias, the life of Elisha changed completely. He was no longer the young man who followed his master. Now he was the chosen prophet to guide the people in difficult times. Many looked at him with doubt, others with hope, but everyone knew that something special had happened. Elisha returned crossing the Jordan River, and when he struck the waters with the cloak, they parted. The sons of the prophets who were nearby saw it and understood that the spirit of Elias rested upon him. From that moment they recognized him as their leader. But Elisha did not seek recognition. His mission was to serve and obey God. One of his first actions was to help the people of a city called Jericho. The water in that place was bad and the land did not produce well. The people suffered because of it. Elisha asked for a new bowl with salt and threw it into the water source, declaring that God had healed it. From then on, the water became good. This miracle showed something important. Elisha not only had power but also compassion for people. However, not everyone respected him. On another occasion, while he was going up the road, some young men began to mock him. They did not understand the weight of his calling or the respect he deserved as a man of God. Elisha spoke a word of judgment, and 2 bears came out of the forest attacking the youths. It was a strong moment that showed his authority should not be taken lightly. As time passed, Elisha moved through different places, helping those in need. His life was not comfortable or calm. He was always on the move, attentive to the voice of God. On one occasion, 3 kings joined together to go to war, but they ran out of water in the desert. Desperate, they looked for Elisha. Although at first he did not want to help because of one of the kings, he finally agreed out of respect for another who feared God. Elisha asked for a musician, and while the music played, the presence of God came upon him. Then he announced that without rain or wind, the valley would be filled with water, and it happened. The water came, and God also gave them victory in battle. This event showed that God spoke clearly through Elisha, and that his word was fulfilled. Another of the most well-known moments of his life was when he helped a widow who was about to lose her sons because she could not pay her debts. Elisha asked her what she had at home, and she answered that she only had a small jar of oil. Elisha told her to borrow many jars and begin filling them. The oil did not stop until all the jars were full. With that, the woman was able to pay her debts and live. This miracle was a sign of provision in the middle of need. There was also an important woman who always helped Elisha whenever he passed through her city. She and her husband prepared a room for him in their house. Elisha, grateful, wanted to bless her and learned that she had no children. Then he told her that she would have a son. And so it happened. The child was born and filled that home with joy. But years later the child became sick and died. The woman went to Elisha with strong faith. She did not accept the loss. She believed that God could do something. Elisha went with her, entered the room where the child was, and prayed. Then he lay on him, and little by little the body of the child grew warm until he came back to life. It was one of the most powerful miracles of his ministry. Through these events, Elisha showed that God had power over life, death, nature, and circumstances. His name began to be known throughout Israel. Unlike other important men, Elisha did not live a life centered on his own family. The Bible does not mention that he had a wife or children. His life was completely dedicated to the service of God and to the care of the people. His home was the road, his rest was brief, and his mission constant. Every step he took was guided by faith. Every word he spoke carried weight. Every miracle that happened showed that God was still present among his people. But there were still many challenges ahead, moments of tension, difficult decisions, and signs that would reveal even more of the power within his life. The story of Elisha continued to grow, and his name was beginning to be remembered as one of the great prophets of Israel. The fame of Elisha began to spread beyond Israel. His miracles did not only impact his own people but also neighboring nations. Every story told about him increased both respect and fear of the power of God working through his life. One of the most surprising accounts was about a man named Naaman. He was not an Israelite but a commander of the army of Syria, a brave and respected man, but he had a disease that no one could cure: leprosy. Despite his power, he lived with pain and shame. A young Israelite girl who served in his house spoke about Elisha. She said that in Israel there was a prophet who could heal him. Naaman decided to try. He traveled with gifts and letters seeking help. When he arrived, he did not receive the attention he expected. Elisha did not even come out to see him. He only sent a message telling him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. Naaman felt offended. He expected something greater, something more impressive. But his servants convinced him to obey. Naaman went down to the river and dipped himself 7 times. When he did, his skin was completely restored. He was clean. It was a moment of great impact. Naaman returned grateful, recognizing that the God of Israel was the true God. This miracle showed that the power of God had no boundaries. However, not everyone learned the lesson. A servant of Elisha named Gehazi saw an opportunity to gain something. He ran after Naaman and asked for gifts in the name of his master. Naaman agreed without knowing it was a lie. When Gehazi returned, Elisha already knew what he had done. He confronted him, and as a consequence, the leprosy that had left Naaman came upon Gehazi. It was a hard moment that taught that the power of God cannot be used with selfish motives. Elisha continued moving through unexpected situations. On one occasion, the sons of the prophets were building a place to live. While working, one of them lost the iron head of his axe in the water. It was valuable and he had no way to recover it. Elisha took a piece of wood, threw it into the water, and the iron floated. It seemed like a small thing, but it showed that God cares even about the details. Another important moment happened when the king of Syria sent troops to capture Elisha. The prophet knew the enemy plans because God revealed them to him. The army surrounded the city where Elisha was during the night. Dawn, his servant, saw the situation and was afraid. But Elisha told him not to fear. He prayed for his eyes to be opened. Then the servant saw the mountain full of horses and chariots of fire surrounding them and protecting them. It was a powerful sight. Then Elisha prayed for the enemy soldiers to become blind. He led them to Samaria, and there their eyes were opened. The king of Israel wanted to kill them, but Elisha told him not to. Instead, they were given food and then sent away. That act of mercy stopped the attacks for a time. Throughout his life, Elisha not only performed miracles but also taught through his actions that compassion and obedience are stronger than violence. But times were not always peaceful. Israel faced hunger wars and difficult decisions. In the middle of everything, Elisha remained firm as a voice that guided and warned. On one occasion, a great famine struck Samaria. The situation was so severe that people suffered greatly. The king blamed Elisha, but the prophet announced that the next day there would be abundance. It seemed impossible. However, God acted in an unexpected way. He made the enemy army hear a great noise, and they fled, leaving everything behind. For sick men discovered the empty camp, and the news reached the city. In a moment, scarcity turned into abundance, just as Elisha had said. Each of these events strengthened his reputation as a man guided by God. But they also showed that his life was full of pressure, danger, and responsibility. Elisha did not live for himself. His purpose was greater than any comfort. Every day was an opportunity to show that God still acts, even when everything seems lost. And although many saw him as a strong man, he also carried within himself the weight of his mission. The journey was not over yet. The final years of his life would bring decisive moments that would mark his legacy forever. With the passing of the years, Elisha was no longer the young man who followed Elias. Now he was an older man with a life full of experiences, miracles, and difficult decisions. His name was known throughout Israel and beyond, but his heart remained humble. Despite everything he had lived through, the times were still difficult. Kings changed, wars continued, and the people often turned away from God. Elisha remained firm like a light in the middle of darkness. One of the most important moments of this stage was his relationship with King Joash of Israel. The king faced constant threats and needed guidance. Even though Elisha was already sick, the king went to visit him. He wept when he saw him weak, because he knew he was losing a key man for the nation. Even in his condition, Elisha did not stop fulfilling his purpose. He told the king to take a bow and arrows. He instructed him to shoot an arrow toward the east. Then he explained that the arrow represented Israel's victory over its enemies. After that, he told him to strike the ground with the arrows. The king struck the ground only 3 times and stopped. This made Elisha angry. He told him that he should have done it more times because that would have represented complete victory. Instead, he would defeat his enemies only a few times. It was a clear lesson about the importance of faith and determination. Even in his final days, Elisha taught with firmness. Throughout his life, it was never mentioned that Elisha had a wife or children. His legacy was not a family, but a story marked by the power of God. His spiritual children were those who learned from him, the prophets who followed his path, and the people whose lives were transformed by his obedience. Elisha lived many years, although the Bible does not say exactly how many. What it does show is that his life was long and full of purpose. From the field where he began to the palaces where he gave counsel, his path was guided by a divine mission. The moment came when his body could no longer continue. The illness advanced and his strength faded, but his faith remained intact. It was not the end of an ordinary man. It was the closing of the life of a prophet who had seen the power of God in every stage. Elisha died, leaving a deep emptiness in Israel. However, his story did not end there. After his death, something surprising happened that made it clear that the power of God was still present even beyond his life. On one occasion, some men were burying another man when they saw an enemy group approaching. Afraid, they threw the body into the tomb where Elisha was. When the body touched the bones of Elisha, the man came back to life and stood up. This event shocked everyone. It was as if the legacy of Elisha could not be stopped even by death. His life had been so marked by the power of God that even his remains were a sign of that power. The years passed, but his name was not forgotten. Elisha was remembered as a faithful prophet, a man of miracles, and someone who never stopped obeying God. He did not seek wealth, he did not seek fame, he did not build his own kingdom. His life was completely given to a greater purpose. Every miracle, every word, every action left a mark on the history of Israel. And even though he was no longer there, his influence remained alive in the memory of the people. But beyond the miracles, what truly defined Elisha was his constant faith, his willingness to obey, and his heart ready to serve no matter the cost. His story is not only about power, but also about commitment, and that commitment would be remembered for generations. The life of Elisha was not a common story. It was not filled with luxury or comfort, but with purpose. From the moment he left the field to follow Elias until the day of his death, every step had a deep meaning. Elisha was not born famous or powerful. His beginning was simple, like that of many. But what made him different was his response to the call of God. When he had the chance to remain in a comfortable life, he chose to leave everything behind without looking back. That decision marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Throughout his life, Elisha did not gather wealth or seek recognition. What he gathered were experiences that showed the power of God in action. He saw water heal barren land, oil multiply, children return to life, armies flee without fighting, and diseases disappear. Every miracle had a purpose. They were not just amazing acts, they were signs that God was present, guiding and caring for his people. Elisha was an instrument, not the source. And he always understood that his character was one of his greatest strengths. He was firm when he needed to be, but also compassionate. He helped those in need, corrected those who acted wrongly, and taught with patience those who wanted to learn. Not everyone accepted his authority. Some challenged him, others ignored him, but Elisha never allowed that to change his mission. He knew he was not serving men but God. His life also shows that power without obedience can bring consequences. The case of Gehazi is a clear example. Elisha did not allow corruption to enter his path. He kept his integrity until the end. Even though he had no children, his legacy was greater than a family. His influence reached kings' armies and entire nations. He was a counselor, a guide, and an example. His life touched people from different places, even outside Israel, like Naaman. This shows that the reach of an obedient life can go beyond what anyone imagines. About his exact age, there is no clear number, but his ministry lasted many years. He witnessed important changes in the history of Israel. From his calling to his death, his life was constant in service. His death was not the end of his impact. The miracle that happened with his bones made it clear that his story was marked by something eternal. He was not just a man, he was a channel of the power of God. Elisha taught that a special origin is not needed to fulfill a great purpose. What is needed is willingness, faith, and obedience. He responded when he was called, and that changed everything. He also taught that true greatness is not found in what one possesses, but in what one gives. Elisha gave his time, his energy, and his entire life to the service of God. His story is still alive because it inspires. It shows that even in the middle of difficulties it is possible to trust, that in times of lack there can be provision, that in moments of death there can be life. Elisha did not write books or build monuments. His legacy is found in the actions he carried out and in the lives he transformed. Today, his name is remembered as one of the great prophets, not because of what he said about himself, but because of what God did through him. And so ends the story of a man who began plowing the land and ended by leaving an eternal mark. A man who did not seek greatness but became great. A man who did not seek power but was used with power. A man who understood that life has a higher purpose, and that when the right calling is answered, everything can change forever. If this message has touched your heart, you are invited to join this family of faith. Subscribe to this channel and join us each week to continue learning from the stories and teachings God has for us. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any video. Thank you for being here, and may God bless your life.